Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, the TV show, and our final segment. But before we begin, I want to thank Bank Hometown for helping make Chamber Exchange, the TV show, happen, and the team here at Spectrum One News. Alex Guardiola, welcome. Alex is our Vice President in Government Affairs and Public Policy at the Chamber.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me back.
And you've been busy lately?
Very busy. A lot of things going on, obviously.
Well, first, let me congratulate you on being a new dad.
Thank you very much. Right. We welcomed our baby girl, Cassandra, in about a month ago now.
All right. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. But now we'll get back to work, right?
Right, back to work. We're back.
In the municipal ballot, in the election day here in the city of Worcester, there's a ballot question that pertains just to the municipality of the city of Worcester called the Community Preservation Act. And many of the goals behind the Community Preservation Act, historic preservation, affordable housing, maintaining and the quality of our parks, open space, are all priorities that the Chamber, for the last 10 years and throughout its history, have been advocates and supporters of. But this particular ballot question that's coming before the voters in the city of Worcester raises a property taxes through a surcharge. You want to talk about what it is and how this proposal would be used?
Sure. So as you mentioned, on the November 8th ballot, there are 5 questions, 4 statewide and then 1 local. Question number 5, the Community Preservation Act. What the Community Preservation Act would do is it would collect funds through a surcharge on your property taxes. So voters will be voting whether or not to adopt a 1.5 surcharge on both the residential and commercial properties.
So this would be raising taxes for both the residential and the commercial industrial property owners.
Correct. Now the initiatives, again, as you mentioned, are affordable housing, green space, historic preservation, which we continue to advocate, as you mentioned. The problem we have is here in the city of Worcester, we have the 8th highest commercial tax rate already. We have a surplus of money on the federal and state level, or excuse me, the state level from the federal dollars, and on the city level. So we don't believe at the Chamber that 2022 is the year to add more taxes to both our residents and our businesses, especially for our small businesses who are barely coming out of COVID, and many who did not make it, but adding another surcharge is not the right policy at this time.
So on the commercial industrial property owners and businesses, and even if they don't own the property, if there's a business that's renting, they often have in their lease, they're responsible for any property tax increases. So this would affect businesses really, across the spectrum.
Yeah, so one of the things that people may not know at home is that it's common practice here in the city of Worcester and throughout, country mostly, but for business owners who rent their space in the city of Worcester to have what's called a triple net lease. This is where our small business owners who are tenants agree to pay not only their rent and utilities,
the base rent,
right, and utilities, but also the maintenance, insurance, and the taxes on the property. So again, whatever taxes that the property owner incurs rolls right onto our small businesses, and really, it affects their bottom line.
And most of the businesses in the city are small businesses.
Of course, about 85% of our chamber members are small businesses with probably 10 employees or under.
So to go back we have helped bring in housing developers, affordable housing developers who are doing good projects right now, have completed others. We have fight to bring historic tax credits for historic preservation to the city. We've been an advocate for park improvements and open space. But you mentioned earlier, the city has received records amount of money recently from the federal government. For the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, the city received almost $150 million, and then another almost $6 million for housing. But that nearly $150 million, how much is it?
It's $149 million for the city of Worcester.
And
directly.
It's flexible money.
It can be used, and right now, the city has already put their plan out, and they have $15 million already allocated to the Affordable Housing Trust.
So $15 million,
yep.
And then I think another $10 million on top of it for other housing-related programs.
Plus what you mentioned earlier, which is called the ARPA Home Plan. So it's HARP, and what that does, it's actually $6 million that the city receives specifically allocated to preserve or produce affordable housing. So again, you add another $6 million plus whatever the city is going to continue to add. I also want to mention that we've been advocates of what's called inclusionary zoning. Now we hear some folks saying that once ARPA money's gone, what are we going to do? Well, inclusionary zoning would add another stream of funds specifically for affordable housing. So again, there's money there. We should not be taxing people right now.
So the point is of all of this is, if you've got money, and a significant amount of money right now for the council and the city, and this doesn't include the $2 billion in ARPA money that the state has not yet spent. This doesn't include some of the federal programs that are included in the Build Back Better or the federal infrastructure bill. So you've got money to address these important issues.
Yeah.
Why would we raise taxes?
It's a good question. I mean, right now, we're at a historic amount of monies at both treasuries, at the state level and the city level.
Right.
We should not be adding new taxes to both our residents or our businesses.
Right. And so accordingly, the chamber's position is that, voters out there in the city of Worcester should vote no on question 5.
Yeah, vote no on question 5. Again, we support the initiatives. I think there's other ways to get those accomplished. We've been working, tirelessly to make sure that those things happen. But with federal dollars sitting at both treasuries, there's no reason to be adding new taxes. So no on 5.
Right. And the other thing, the Worcester Regional Research Bureau has reported this, from time to time. And, Worcester, there's a special kind of burden, I guess, if you will, both on the residential and commercial industrial, because, we are home to a lot of nonprofits who don't pay property taxes. And when you look at the city of Worcester's budget, property taxes are one of the most important ways in which we pay for services which we all benefit from. Right. And then state aid comes in. So if property tax owners already have a burden here because of compared to other communities, the amount of untaxable property here. And that's a factor, right?
Yeah, and it's worth noting that only half of the gateway cities have signed on to the Community Preservation Act. Only 3 neighboring communities in Central Mass, which are
right.
West Boylston, Grafton, and Shrewsbury, all single rate tax payers. Right?
And there's a similarity. Many of the gateway cities are home to the nonprofits,
right.
Which do very important work.
Great
but
partners.
They are the regional hubs, and so they disproportionately have properties on the tax rolls that don't pay property taxes. Correct. Under state law.
Yeah, obviously we work well with them on so many different fronts, but at this level here, they're not paying property taxes, so it's again just another shift onto our residents and our business commercial taxpayers. Right,
and that's on the ballot on November 8th.
November 8th, it's question number 5. Again, very important for the city of Worcester to make sure that we address this and make sure that we understand that we're not going to take away from anything. We're just not adding new taxes. And again, another clarification point. Currently, there's some advocates out there stating that we're already paying into it. Well, we're not paying into it. There's transaction fees at the Registry of Deeds that are going into this state fund, but we're not currently paying into it. Last night at the municipal operations hearing, they did a kind of a report on how much money we could have got. They said $11 million over the last 3 years. Well, 9.5 of that is tax. There's only 1.5 of that is going to be matched by the state. So again, very big difference.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the fundamental point. If you're sitting on over $150 million, which is extremely flexible and which already has been designated to some percentage to go to those issues of housing, affordable housing, historic preservation, open space. Yeah. Why tax people when you already have money to address those things?
Absolutely. I think it's just not good policy at this time.
Plus $2 billion at the state level, not spent it, and a state surplus.
A surplus. I mean, we've talked about it. People are going to get some money back in their actual check coming back. Right. But if we have a surplus at the end, already reported Q1 for the state, again, we're above what we're supposed to be collecting. So there's too much money to be sitting there not addressing the same issues as the CPA hopes to do.
Let's use what we've got before we hit people in the wallet.
I get it, yep.
Got it. Alex Guardiola, Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Policy at the Chamber. New dad.
New dad.
Congratulations again. And we're going to sign off on this edition of Chamber Exchange, and we'll end with a thank you to Bank Hometown for helping make the show happen.